There are nights when the darkness feels too heavy, when the world goes quiet, but your thoughts grow louder than ever. Ethan knew those nights well. He carried wounds no one could see, fought battles no one knew existed, and stood in places where even hope felt too far away. He didn't expect help. He didn't expect rescue. He didn't expect light. Because when the weight on your chest feels like stone, you stop believing anyone can lift it. But what Ethan didn't know, was that long before the darkness surrounded him, Jesus had already seen him. Long before fear reached his heart, Jesus was already walking toward him. And long before Ethan whispered for help, heaven had already decided, this one is mine. In moments when you feel forgotten, in moments when your spirit trembles, remember this truth: Jesus sees you first. Jesus moves first. Jesus comes first. Not because you are strong, but because he is. And tonight, in the deepest part of Ethan's darkness, a light was about to break through. When Ethan looked toward the light, something in him shifted, not fully hope, not fully strength, but a trembling awareness that he was no longer alone. The darkness had surrounded him for so long that he did not remember what peace even felt like. But as the silhouette in the distance grew clearer, the room itself began to breathe again. The air softened. The weight on his chest loosened. And every shadow that dared to come closer hesitated, as if recognizing a presence it could not challenge. Ethan didn't move. His legs were too weak, and his heart was too tired. But Jesus moved. Step by step, with light spilling from his presence like a rising dawn, Jesus closed the distance between them. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. He didn't demand. He simply came closer, because love always moves toward the broken. When he reached Ethan, the room brightened with a warmth Ethan had forgotten existed. A warmth that touched skin, but also touched the places deep within him that had gone cold. Jesus lifted his hand, not to condemn, not to expose, but to heal. Light flowed toward Ethan's chest like a gentle river, warm, steady, reassuring. And the darkness that once felt unstoppable began to peel back as though it knew its time was over. For the first time in years, Ethan breathed without pain. For the first time in years, his spirit felt held. And in that moment, Ethan understood something that would follow him through every battle that was yet to come: I am seen. I am safe. Jesus has come for me. As the warmth of the light settled into Ethan's chest, something deeper began to stir, something ancient, something powerful, something he never knew was inside him. Because light does not merely comfort, it awakens. Ethan lifted his eyes toward Jesus, and for the first time, he felt truly seen, not as a broken man, not as a failure, but as someone with a purpose that darkness had tried to bury. Jesus stepped even closer. The room brightened. The shadows trembled. Then Jesus spoke Ethan's name, not out loud, but into his spirit, with a clarity that echoed through every part of him. Ethan. I have called you. Those words did not just sound like language, they felt like truth, like identity, like destiny awakening in the innermost parts of his soul. Suddenly, the room around him shifted. The walls dissolved into light. The floor beneath him expanded like an open path. He was no longer trapped in the small, dark space he thought was his ending. Jesus raised his hand, and the path ahead illuminated, long, bright, steady. Not a path of ease. Not a path without struggle. But a path chosen for him since the beginning. Ethan felt the call pulling at him, not forcing, but inviting, like a hand reaching through time itself. He took a step. A small one. Barely a shift of weight, but heaven noticed. Because when a chosen warrior takes the first step, the entire spiritual world watches. Jesus smiled, not a human smile, but a radiant warmth in the soul, as if saying, this is where your journey begins, Ethan. Walk with me. Ethan walked the first few steps of his calling, but calling does not erase the battles inside. Sometimes, taking one step toward the light makes the darkness push back even harder. And that is exactly what happened. The moment Ethan moved forward, the shadows that once surrounded him rose again, stronger, louder, heavier. They whispered every doubt he thought he had escaped. You're not enough. You will fail again. You're not chosen. You're alone. The light ahead felt distant. Jesus felt far. And Ethan felt the old weight crashing down like a wave too strong to stand against. His knees buckled. His breath trembled. His hands shook as the darkness pressed on his shoulders like a mountain. This was the moment the enemy wanted, the moment right after hope begins, when the soul is still fragile, still learning to trust. Ethan collapsed to the ground. Too tired to rise. Too overwhelmed to breathe. And for a brief moment, he believed the lie that nothing had changed. But Jesus had not moved away. He had moved closer. Just because Ethan couldn't see him didn't mean Jesus wasn't standing right behind him. With the gentleness of heaven and the authority of a king, Jesus placed his hand near Ethan's back. Light poured out like a river breaking through stone. The pressure lifted. The darkness cracked. And the weight that pinned Ethan down began to fall away like ashes stripped from fire. Ethan looked up with tears and disbelief, because the moment he broke was the moment Jesus carried him. You do not rise alone, Ethan. I lift you. As the light held Ethan steady, Jesus stepped in front of him, not with the silence of comfort this time, but with the authority of revelation. There are moments in life when God does not just heal you. He shows you who you truly are. Jesus raised his hand, and the world around Ethan shifted once more. The ground beneath him glowed, the sky opened above him, and light poured through the cracks of heaven like rivers searching for a name to rest upon. Then Ethan saw it, a vision unlike anything he had known. He saw himself standing tall, stronger than he had ever been, surrounded by light so bright that darkness could not even approach. He saw battles he would face, but he saw victory written over every single one. Most shocking of all, he saw Jesus standing beside him in each moment, guiding, strengthening, never leaving. This wasn't a fantasy. This wasn't an illusion. This was the truth the enemy tried so hard to hide. Ethan was always meant to be a warrior. A warrior of light. A warrior of compassion. A warrior who carries heaven into the places no one else wants to walk. Jesus looked at Ethan with eyes full of knowing, as if he had seen Ethan's entire life from beginning to end, and still chosen him. Then Jesus spoke into his spirit, I chose you because I see what you cannot see. I call you because I know who you are becoming. And for the first time, Ethan believed it. Revelation brings understanding, but transformation brings power. What Jesus showed Ethan was not meant to inspire him. It was meant to awaken him. Jesus stepped closer until Ethan felt the weight of his presence, not heavy like fear, but heavy like purpose. With one motion, Jesus lifted his hand and placed it near Ethan's chest. Light gathered in his palm, not gentle this time, but fierce, brilliant, alive. The kind of light that created worlds. The kind of light that destroys darkness without effort. And that light was meant for Ethan. Jesus pressed his hand forward, and the power of heaven surged into Ethan's body. Not violently, but overwhelmingly. Every broken part felt mended. Every weak part felt strengthened. Every silent fear felt replaced by a courage he did not know he possessed. Ethan fell to his knees, not from pain, but from the magnitude of what was being given to him. This was the moment he stopped being the man he used to be, and became who he was always meant to be. A warrior of light. Jesus looked down at him with the tenderness of a healer and the authority of a king. Stand, Ethan. You carry my light now. And when Ethan rose, the darkness around him shattered like glass. Power without guidance becomes confusion. Strength without purpose becomes chaos. That is why Jesus did not simply give Ethan his light. He taught him how to carry it. The training did not begin with force. It began with surrender. Jesus led Ethan into a place where the ground shimmered and the air moved like soft wind, a place untouched by darkness, a realm where heaven felt near. There, Jesus lifted his hand, and the light inside Ethan responded, as though heaven itself recognized its own flame. Ethan felt warmth rise within him, rushing through his chest, his arms, his breath. But he couldn't control it. Not yet. The light flickered, surged, dimmed, flared again. He staggered. He clenched his fists. He fought to steady the power flowing through him like a restless river. Jesus approached with calm authority, his presence steady as sunrise. Ethan, he spoke into the warrior's spirit, light does not obey fear. It obeys faith. Jesus extended his hand, and the light inside Ethan aligned with the gesture instantly.
Peace, my son.
Not forced, guided.
Do not be afraid.
Ethan breathed deeply, and the power settled into clarity.
Here.
This was not a weapon. This was not rage. This was purpose embodied in light. And when he opened his eyes, the warrior within him finally awakened.
Let go.
Every warrior receives a moment where their strength is tested, not to break them, but to reveal what has grown inside them. For Ethan, the test came sooner than expected. The ground beneath him dimmed. The air chilled. The realm of training trembled as shadows gathered at the edges, not like before, but darker, sharper, more deliberate. This was not the darkness of his past. This was the challenge of his future. Ethan felt fear whisper again, quiet, subtle, a shadow trying to slip through the cracks of his newly awakened courage. His hands shook. The light inside Jesus did not step in immediately. He questioned himself. He let Ethan really feel the tension. The pull, the weight, because growth requires resistance. When Ethan's knees weakened, when the shadows closed in, when his breath trembled, Jesus finally spoke. Ethan, you are not alone in this test. Jesus placed his hand near Ethan's back again, not to rescue him, but to remind him of the strength already placed within him. Light surged from Ethan's chest like a heartbeat of heaven. The shadows cracked, shattered, and dissolved. This was not Jesus fighting for him. This was Jesus fighting through him. And the warrior understood, the test was never about darkness. It was about believing the light he now carried. There comes a moment in every warrior's journey when everything changes, not because the battle ends, but because the warrior finally rises. For Ethan, that moment was now. The darkness that once terrified him no longer held the same power. It shook. It hesitated. It recognized the light he carried. Ethan felt strength rise inside him, not human strength, not borrowed strength, but heavenly strength that pulsed through his spirit like the heartbeat of God himself. Jesus stepped beside him, his presence towering yet gentle, and spoke into Ethan's soul, "Stand, warrior. My light is fully in you." The darkness around him cracked open as streams of light burst from the ground, from the sky, from within him. This was not the rise of a man trying to escape his past. This was the rise of a warrior finally stepping into his calling. The darkness around him cracked open as streams of light burst from the ground, from the sky, from within him. This was not the rise of a man trying to escape his past. This was the rise of a warrior finally stepping into his calling. Ethan took one step forward, and the atmosphere shifted. Fear retreated. Shadows dissolved. Heaven applauded. Because when a chosen warrior rises, the darkness trembles. When Ethan reached the end of the shining path, Jesus stepped before him, not as a distant figure, but as a king standing before his warrior. The air grew still. The light deepened. Heaven watched. Jesus lifted his hand and rested it near Ethan's chest, the place where the light now lived. His voice moved like thunder wrapped in gentleness. "Ethan, you are no longer fighting for survival. You are fighting with purpose." Images of people flashed before Ethan. Broken souls, wounded hearts, those who walked in darkness the same way he once did. Jesus spoke again, "Go. Carry my light to them. For as I stood with you, you will stand with others." Ethan felt a new strength enter him, not just power, but responsibility, not just calling, but mission. Jesus stepped back into the great light, and his final words echoed through Ethan's entire being, "You are never alone, my warrior." The light expanded, filling the horizon, and Ethan walked forward, not as a man searching for hope, but as a warrior carrying it. If this message strengthened your spirit, let the light continue to grow. Subscribe for more prayers, messages, and moments that remind your soul of who you were created to be.